He had exactly 4 minutes to prove he was a star. But when the judges heard his voice, one of them didn't even wait for the song to end before reaching for the red buzzer. What happened next was something no one in that auditorium would ever forget, and it would change the life of a nervous young man from a small town forever. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another moment of life-changing auditions. The backstage area of the Rising Star Showcase was buzzing with nervous energy. Contestants paced back and forth, some humming scales, others whispering lyrics to themselves. But in the corner, sitting alone on a metal folding chair, was Elvis Santiago. He was a 23-year-old construction worker from a tiny town called Millbrook, a place so small that if you blinked, you would miss it completely. Elvis had driven 18 hours straight in his beat-up pickup truck just for this moment. His mother had cried when he left, pressing a crumpled $50 bill into his hand and telling him to make her proud. He had promised her he would try. Elvis was not the typical contestant you would expect to see on a big televised competition. He wore scuffed work boots and a simple plaid shirt. His hands were calloused from lifting drywall and mixing cement. When he spoke, his voice was soft and unassuming. But when he sang, something magical happened. He had grown up singing in his church choir, where his voice had echoed off the wooden rafters and made old women weep. His mother always said he had been touched by something special. Finally, the stage manager, a harried woman with a clipboard, called his name. Elvis Santiago, you are up in 5 minutes. He stood up, his stomach doing flips. He walked toward the massive stage doors, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. He thought about turning back. He thought about just walking out of the building and driving home. But then he saw his mother's face in his mind, and he kept walking. The stage was blinding. Lights shone down from every direction, and the audience was a dark sea of silhouettes. Behind the judges' table sat 3 people. There was Mia Chen, a former pop star with a sharp wit. There was James Donovan, a gruff music producer known for his honesty. And there was Simon Cross, the most feared judge of them all, a man whose cold stare could freeze a contestant mid-note. Simon Cross was famous for his brutal critiques and for never, ever pressing his buzzer before a performance was finished. He believed in giving everyone a fair chance. Elvis walked to the center of the stage, feeling very small. He introduced himself, his voice trembling slightly. Simon Cross looked him up and down with that familiar skeptical expression. You are a construction worker from a small town, Simon said, his voice dripping with doubt. And you think you have what it takes to be a star. What are you going to sing for us today? Elvis took a deep breath. He had chosen a song that his father used to sing to him as a child, an old soulful ballad about hard times and hope. It was a song that meant everything to him. He nodded to the band, and the music began. He sang the first line. His voice was pure and clear, filled with raw emotion. The audience leaned forward. Mia Chen smiled. James Donovan nodded his head. But then, something unexpected happened. Just 30 seconds into the song, Simon Cross reached down and slammed his hand on the red rejection buzzer. The loud buzz echoed through the auditorium, and the large X lit up behind Elvis. The audience gasped. Mia and James looked at Simon in shock. What are you doing? Mia whispered. He is barely 30 seconds in. Simon Cross stood up. His face was unreadable. He held up his hand to stop the music. The band trailed off, and Elvis stood frozen, his mouth still open from the last note he had sung. He felt his heart shatter into a million pieces. He had not even gotten to the good part of the song. He had not even shown them what he could really do. Tears pricked at his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. Simon Cross walked around the judges' table and stepped onto the stage. He walked slowly toward Elvis, his footsteps heavy on the polished floor. The entire auditorium was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Simon stopped right in front of Elvis and looked at him for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then he spoke. I did not buzz you because you are bad, Simon said, his voice calm and clear. In fact, I buzzed you because you are too good. The audience murmured in confusion. Elvis blinked, not understanding. Simon continued. In my entire career, I have never stopped an audition early. Not once. But I have learned to recognize something special when I see it. You have something raw, something real, something that cannot be taught. And I did not want you to waste another second of your 4 minutes singing a song that does not belong to you. That song is beautiful, but it is not your song. It is your father's song. What I want to hear is your song. Do you have one? Elvis stood there, stunned. His hands were shaking. He did have a song. He had written it himself in the cab of his truck during long drives home from work. He had never sung it for anyone, not even his mother. He nodded slowly. Yes, sir, I do. Simon Cross stepped back and gestured to the band. Then stop wasting time. Sing it. Elvis closed his eyes. For a moment, he was back in his truck, driving down empty highways, watching the stars through the windshield. He opened his mouth, and he sang. He sang about leaving home. He sang about hard work and broken dreams. He sang about a mother's love and a father's hope. His voice filled the auditorium, and this time, there was no stopping it. It soared and it cracked and it healed and it hurt, all at the same time. When he finished, there was silence for one long, breathless second. Then the audience erupted. They were on their feet, clapping and cheering. Mia Chen was crying. James Donovan was shaking his head in disbelief. And Simon Cross, the man who never smiled, was smiling. He walked back to Elvis and put a hand on his shoulder. Simon Cross said, "That is what I was waiting for. That is what the world needs to hear. I am not a record producer anymore, but I am going to make some calls. You have a future, Elvis Santiago. You have a future." Elvis broke down then. The tears he had held back came flooding out. He hugged Simon Cross, who looked awkward but let him. The moment was captured by every camera in the room. It played on television screens across the country that night. Within a week, Elvis Santiago was the most talked about person in America. Record labels called. Interview requests poured in. He moved his mother out of their tiny apartment and bought her a house. He quit his construction job and started working on an album. But the biggest twist came months later. At the finale of the Rising Star Showcase, Simon Cross appeared as a special guest. He announced that he had started his own small record label, and the very first artist he had signed was Elvis Santiago. Simon admitted that stopping Elvis early had been a gamble, but he had seen something in that young man that reminded him of why he had gotten into the music business in the first place. It was not about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone real. Elvis Santiago went on to sell millions of records. He never forgot where he came from. He always wore his work boots on stage, a tribute to the years he spent building other people's dreams before building his own. And now, before you go, we would love to know from which part of the country you are watching this video today. Drop your state or city in the comments below. We read every single one. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes getting stopped early is exactly the push you need to finally start.